These are the stocks Bill Ackman owns through his investment company, Pershing Square Capital Management. We get a sneak peek into the outspoken investor's holdings through his 13F. Pershing Square is a privately owned hedge fund that was founded by Bill Ackman in 2003. He's a value investor who buys stakes in undervalued companies with the intention of working with management to improve performance. Pershing Square focuses on long-term, value-oriented investing and employs a concentrated portfolio strategy. His smallest position, coming in at 2.5%, is Lowe's. Ackman made a major reduction in the home retailer this quarter, taking it from one of his biggest positions to his smallest by far. Ackman made his first Lowe's buy in the third quarter of 2011. Since then, he's bought more shares 7 times and sold in 13 different quarters. Impressively, since his most recent major purchases during the stock market crash of 2020, Ackman has more than doubled his money. Lowe's stock price is up $110 since then. Today, the $132.5 billion home improvement retailer trades at its 52-week high. Ackman's the second largest super investor owner of Lowe's. Perhaps his recent sales were warranted, as a DCF gives Lowe's a current fair value of $234 per share, representing a 3% downside. Analysts are even more skeptical of the business, with a $194 price target that's down 20% from today's stock price. Ackman's next position is Alphabet. He owns both classes of their stock, both GOOG and GOOGL. These come in at under 13 and 6% respectively. Combined together, they actually make up Ackman's biggest holding. Ackman's added to Alphabet twice since the beginning of 2023. This likely used the money he received after selling Netflix at a loss. That was a highly publicized turnaround in opinion just a couple years prior. The $1.8 trillion search giant trades pretty close to its 52-week high, up a lot from its $90 52-week low. Ackman is the 5th largest super investor with the position. Alphabet may have room to continue increasing in share price, as a current fair value clocks in at $175 per share, giving it a 26% upside based on a DCF analysis. Analysts think there's some upside for Alphabet as well, but not as much, with a $148 price target. That's an upside of just 7%. Canadian Pacific Kansas City is Ackman's next biggest holding. This comes in at 11.5% of his portfolio. This is a long-time buy for Ackman, first buying the business in 2011 and selling out in 2016, and then buying the business again in the fourth quarter of 2021 after the announcement of the Kansas City Southern merger. He's added heavily to the business since the end of 2022, and since then the stock price is up a decent amount. Since his most recent rounds of buys, Ackman's made around 13% on Canadian Pacific Kansas City. Most recently, it's been some bigger buys of the $80 billion Canadian railway company that trades at its 52-week high. Ackman is the second largest super investor behind Chris Hone with the position in the company. Today, it looks like the numbers supporting a DCF say that a fair value is around $87 per share. That's up just 2% from today's stock price, very slightly up. Howard Hughes Holdings is Ackman's next largest buy. It's the only stock on his 13F that he added to in the most recent quarter, adding 12%. Ackman's bought in a number of times and is among the biggest holders of this company. Today, Guru Focus puts a fair value of $66 per share on this real estate owner and developing company. That represents a 16.5% downside. Some of these other valuations support that Howard Hughes may be slightly overvalued as well. The only one saying that it might be undervalued is its median price to share value from its last 10 years. It's the company Ackman's been buying most recently, so time will tell. Next is Hilton Worldwide Holdings. This clocks in at 16% of the portfolio with a $1.7 billion value. Ackman trimmed about 11% of this position in Q4 2023. Ackman owns 3.7% of all of Hilton Worldwide stock. He first made an investment in the fourth quarter of 2018. Since then, he's bought in 6 more quarters and trimmed on 10 separate occasions. Most recently, he's been trimming after a string of buys. Ackman's far and away the biggest holder of this $51 billion hotel company that today trades at its 52-week high. A discounted cash flow analysis supports that it's just around its fair value, which clocks in at $210 per share, giving it a 2.5% upside. Ackman's third largest holding and his second individual stock is Restaurant Brands International. The owner of Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes and Firehouse Subs clocks in at 17.5% of the portfolio with a $1.8 billion value. He owns 7.7% of all the company's shares and first bought in the fourth quarter of 2014. He added a lot to the business during the market crash of 2020. Since then, he's both bought and sold more shares of the company. Even still, it looks like he's holding pretty firm. So far, this investment might be up as much as 89% for him. As with Hilton, Ackman is one of the largest individual investors and the biggest super investor by far in Restaurant Holdings, which is a $23.5 billion company. It also trades at its 52-week highs. A very similar situation here. Its fair value is around $78 per share, giving it just a marginal upside based on a discounted cash flow analysis. Ackman's largest individual holding is Chipotle Mexican Grill. It's another company that he's reduced in the most recent quarter. Currently, its value is $1.9 billion and it makes up 18% of Ackman's portfolio. He owns 3% of the company's shares. Since he first started buying in the third quarter of 2016, Ackman has more than quadrupled his money on the business. Recently, though, he's been trimming a slight amount of the $72 billion restaurant giant, which, like these other companies, also trades at its all-time highs. Similarly, Ackman is far and away the largest super investor owning the business. The numbers behind a discounted cash flow analysis support that Chipotle is about fairly valued, with just a marginal downside. Analysts seem to think there's a little bit more to fall, but it's also around Chipotle's stock price today, giving it a 6% downside and a $2,533 price target. Which stocks surprised you the most in Bill Ackman's portfolio? Let me know in the comments below. Use our investment tools linked in the description to follow these fair values even more closely. And check out the most recent buys from Michael Burry.